Armada Book 4 Chapter 8 The Maqeebees Part 1. If we leave now, we can hide within the big gas planet nearest to us. Commander Trom will accompany us with 30 ships but will veer away once we are hidden. Blanton, a Mac told Brawny, the council master. They were watching the other ships near them from an open window. How about the 40 ships under Commander Leamy? Brawny asked. They will try to engage the enemy, then make a run to the left side here, where hopefully, Commander Trom will be in a position to intercept them. After that they intend to make for the main armada of Commander Sind, which is moving towards us. The next day, they reached the gas planet and 5 ships went down deep into the planet. Then they went silent. Before going silent, they heard Commander Leamy has engaged the enemy and will be making a run to the target location in 2 hours. I should not have trusted Bader. He was a traitor and all the while was working for the Cardist Emperor. Brawny said. He was your brother. How could you not trust him? Blanton said. One of my brothers among 8 that I have from the same mother. Your father did warn us about this 200 years ago. He tried to tell the council that this was happening and nobody would believe that this is even possible. Now look at us. For the first time in millions of years in our history we have a war with our very own people. Some of our commanders still have trouble accepting the fact that they would be killing their own. In fact, we have never been at war with anybody or killed anybody, and in a war at that. We've had disagreements with other species but not an all-out war. It is not their fault, their minds have changed. Commander Hilm joined them. Sir, our ships are all secured and we intend to wait here for a week before we leave. Hopefully we can reach the 3rd colony in 10 days. Very good, Commander. How about our guests and the Maqeebees? Brawny asked. The Maqeebee Council is safe on the other ship under Commander Poom. Hilm said. All my people are safe. Blanton added. After 3 days, Brawny called a meeting with the Maqeebee Council head and the ship's commanders. At the main hall of Hilm's ship, I want to change our plans. Brawny started. I want us to go back to the old Maqeebee galaxies. Drop these people there and go back. That is so far away from here. Maybe 18 BLY away. Hilm commented. We may be able to convince the Intqees to fight for us. If we can get 1,000 or more ships to fight for us, we may help turn the tide of the war. And they could provide additional fighting men as well. The history books say the Intqees are not good warriors. Maybe they are even busy fighting with their neighbors who are also Intqees. We don't even know if their ships are as advanced as ours. Hilm said. Blanton offered an explanation. Maybe you are referring to the Intqees called Intqees. They are the unmutated Intqees. The Intqees are really primitive but the Intqees are developed enough. And they have Maqeebees in their society. The way I look at it, we can train them. I am sure they will honor our history and fight for us. Brawny said. I agree with our great leader, they will help us. Although of course we are not sure about their capabilities to fight a war. But then we could be wrong. Blanton said. Until they see how strong our weapons are. If they see a single weapon's fire can destroy their ships, they will make a run for it. They have no experience in warfare like we do. It takes resolve and experience to battle toe-to-toe with the enemy. Poom said. Or they may be used to the old rules of war. The Emperor does not adhere to the drawn-up rules of engagement. And our forces have changed and will not assume any rules of engagement. Hilm added. Maybe they do. Maybe they have learned warfare. Blanton argued. You cannot learn warfare if you have not had an actual war. They are simply fighting among themselves like children. Poom said. Maybe they have. Anyway, Hilm, chart a course to our old galaxies. Brawny said and Hilm nodded. After more than 60 days en route, they stopped by a planet to get supplies. They took a week to replenish their supplies from what they thought was an uninhabited planet. Unknown to them, an Imperial outpost was located hidden well on top of a mountain. Their position was transmitted to the local Imperial Armada, which was 10 days away. Before they left the planet, the Imperial fleet was already 4 days away. Since their ships were very fast at 20% of olive speed, the Imperial Armada slowly fell back and after more than a month has fallen 8 days behind. At the outset, the enemy ships contacted another local armada to come by and intercept the Maqeebees ships. It has been more than 30 days since they replenished their supplies and the travelers have become weary and tired in the long flight. They stopped by a lush planet and after 3 days scanned Imperial forces headed for the planet. They immediately left the area and headed out. This was when they engaged the scout party of 5 ships which was operating around the area. It was a running battle but the Maqeebees were able to destroy all 5 ships which were smaller and did not have the firepower to match the Maqeebees ships. 3 of the ships sustained some damage from the fight which depleted their power generation capabilities. Unknown to them, one scout ship was hiding among the planets. And when they continued on, the scout ship trailed them from 2 days away. The 3 damaged ships were slowly becoming slower. As their power supply got more strained and the 3 ships were slowly getting slower, the other 2 undamaged ships had to slow down as well. At Hilmes Bridge, Great Leader, I would recommend we go down to this planet which has 80% of its area covered in water. We have identified a very large area where we can bring our ships underwater. It also has a vast cave system and I believe, where we would have better defensible positions. Our ships have depleted energy sources and we cannot fight with our ships. Very well, how long before we reach the planet? We would be there in 2.5 days. Blanton appeared before the 2. Great Leader, I sense a Maqeebee presence. But our scanners do not show anything. Maybe there are Maqeebees in the nearby planets. Let me do a full scan of nearby planets. Hilm said. Maybe. Blanton said. The next day, we would have visuals of the planet in a few minutes. Hilm said. Have the ships prepared? Bronny asked. All are ready to leave and transfer all our equipment and supplies deep into the caves. Great Leader, I sense a Maqeebee. It's stronger today than yesterday. Blanton said. Great Leader, our long-range scanners show more than 40 ships further out from the planet. Hilm said. Have they seen us? Bronny asked. I doubt it. Hilm answered. We can beam our holograms in 5 hours. Blanton said. The 40 ships are moving towards the nearest gas planets at a fast pace. Hilm commented. Get Commander Poom and your language officer Saria. Bronny said. After Poom and Saria beamed in, Bronny told them they would have to beam their holograms onto the ships. After 4 hours, Great Leader, scanner shows another 40 ships moving towards those groups of planets. They are the same type of ships and must be the same group. Hilm said. The Maqeebees ship has a holographic screen in front of them showing the ships. I know they can see us now. Maybe they are running away. Poom said. I sense a very large presence of Maqeebees maybe in those ships. Blanton said. Let's beam to the new group. Scan for their leadership. Bronny said. The main bridge is run by only one person, body type is Maqeebee. There are several alien species on board the ship, maybe 8 types. Nobody seemed to be rushing and they seem to be at a leisurely pace. Maybe they do not see us yet. Hilm said. We have identified the leadership through the traffic in communications. That ship. Poom said. Let us go. Bronny said. Greetings, my name is Saria, Saria said in the old Maqeebee language with Bronny, Poom, Hilm and Blanton behind her. Greetings, my name is Lieutenant Colonel Ono. Welcome and please have a seat. Ono communicated to them telepathically in the old Mac language as he stood up, pointed to the chairs and sofas in the lounge at the back of the bridge. Then Andrew, Gadden, Ellie, and Keelmill beamed in behind the lounge. Bronny's group was surprised but remained quiet. Keelmill exclaimed, Greetings, my name is Keelmill, this is our leader, Commander Andrew, this is Ellie and Gadden. He told them in the old Mac language. Gadden said in the same language, We are deeply honored by the presence of our beloved Maqeebees. Ellie was translating to Andrew. Earlier, Andrew wore a translator that Olive beamed on a table beside Andrew. Saria again introduced the group to Andrew's group. Would you rather talk in Maqeebee or would you like to talk in the old dialect? Andrew asked them in Maqeebee. You seem to have no problem with language. Hilm said in Maqeebee. Ellie answered in Maqeebee, Yes, we learned it recently so we can talk to you when you arrive. You were expecting us? Bronny asked surprised in Maqeebee. Yes, beloved leader, many days ago. Gadden answered. They were now talking in Maqeebee. If you will permit us, we have seen some of your people in need of medical attention and we have prepared for them. Keelmill said. Will you let us help your sick people? Andrew asked. I guess you can. Bronny said. They are now being transferred and helped. Some of the Macs are also accompanying the patients to talk to our Macs here. Keelmill said. You call Maqeebees Macs? Saria asked. I invented the term. Andrew said. Our scan shows your ships are composed of 8 different alien species. How is this possible? Bronny asked. They joined our armada as we went along. Now we are all brothers and sisters here. Whatever species you are, we would help each other like family. There are actually 2 more species in our ships, you just don't see them. Ellie said. If you know we are coming, you would also know there are 500 ships that will arrive here in 2 days. Hilm said. Yes, and we are prepared. Ono answered. There are also another 370 ships coming from one direction and they will be here in 2 days as well. They expect to engage you in the planet. Andrew added. We would like to get some intel on the enemy ships following you. Would you permit us to tap into your ship's data systems and get this information? Ellie asked. Intel? Hilm asked. Information on the enemy ships that we can use. Ellie said. I authorize it. Hilm said. I sense a lot of chatter among Maqeebees, non-Maqeebees and other aliens. Blanton said. I told them not to telepath communications. Andrew said. The chatter died down. I guess they are all monitoring us. Blanton said. They are and they should. Andrew said. Olive appeared. Andrew, the enemy ships have standard laser, like the Bourbons, very strong but will not penetrate our shields. Our plasma will tear their ships apart in 3 volleys. Their ship metals are weak like less than 10% of our metals. Their speed is very slow up to 1/3 of our speed. How about sensors, Olive? Ellie asked. They would be able to sense Max, but not Trunties. Or if they are under the Trunty spell would not see the Max either. Olive, look for a planet we can put the enemy in. Andrew said. The Imperial forces will sense your presence. These Maqeebees are very violent people. They do not follow any set rules of engagement. Hilm said. We have our ways. We would like to spare all of their lives if possible and disable their ships to gather more intel. Ellie said. What about the 370 ships? Poolm asked. My friends Tonin and Gantley are already on them. They probably have finished their work by now and just waiting for our signal. Andrew said. Andrew, I was observing you and your people. You seem to be calm and not at all anxious about a pending engagement. Bronny said. Ono answered, the engagement has begun an hour ago. The enemy just don't know it yet. We have prepared days ago for their arrival. You seem to have some experience in warfare. Bronny said, begging for an explanation. You could say that, sir. Gadden said. We realized your power systems have gone way down. Would you like us to help bring them up? Ellie asked. How? Hilm asked. We can connect a power generator that can power your ship. You can have it permanently connected if you like. Would you permit my people to do this? Ellie asked. I authorize it. Hilm said. Can we invite you for some refreshments? Lieutenant Colonel Ono, to your mess hall. Andrew gestured to Ono. Yes, sir. Please lead the way and we would meet you in person at your mess hall. Bronny said. Mess hall? Saria asked. Ellie smiled and, yes, where you can make a mess while eating. Saria laughed. Ellie, that's a good one. Ono said. The mess hall was crowded and noisy as usual a few hours before any engagement. Ono beamed a large table into the mess hall and several chairs as well. When Andrew got there the visitors beamed themselves in front of Andrew. Andrew guided the group, this way please have a seat in this table here. Yoko, please beam some ice cream. Then some Intqee vegetarian dishes, some wines, and brandy. Ono said telepathically. Bronny turned to Ellie, I have never seen this many different aliens in one place. What do you call those? Bronny asked. Those are Talonauts, very hardy species, works extremely hard and long, learns fast and very kind. Ellie answered. How about that one? Saria asked. Keelmill answered, that's a Bwufang. Incredibly smart, smarter than the Norsets, those guys next to our table. Keelmill pointed to the Norset group. Some of the aliens are in some sort of uniform. Some are in a different uniform. Hilm said. Yes, we are a military armada. But some of them come from different armies and they were assigned to me for the meantime. They were assigned by their leaders to help us do our job to keep things in order across several galaxies. They learn and they leave to teach their people about how we do things. Please have a taste of this, we call it ice cream. Andrew explained. Ellie demonstrated how to eat it using her usual overacting way. And as usual, the guests did so in the same overacted way. Ellie smiled and seemed to get a kick out of the guests' actions. This is incredible. And this comes in how many flavors? Saria looked at Ono. In this ship, 10, Ono said. I want to taste them all. Saria said. Ono told Yoko to beam in all the ice cream flavors. This is wine, I presume? Bronny asked. You are correct. Have a taste of this. We call this brandy. Andrew said. Poolm reacted quickly, this brandy is absolutely so fine, so smooth and so tasty. And high in alcohol. This is something I can drink all day. Until you pass out. Bronny said and Poolm laughed. Tell me, Andrew, as a military armada, how many military engagements have you gone through? Hilm asked. I have lost count. Sir, you have not been counting, so how can you lose count? Ellie countered. Okay, smarty pants, how many? I have not been counting them. But I assure you a lot, with a lot of different species in dozens of galaxies and thousands of planets. And how large is the area you have covered? Bronny asked. Andrew looked at Ellie. End to end maybe 18 BLY, Ellie said. So all these aliens live within that area? Saria asked. Yes, in hundreds of galaxies in thousands of planets. Gadden said. So how are the Maqeebees doing? Bronny asked Gadden. We have been very well and our collective have grown a lot since you left. And the Intqees? Bronny asked. Andrew answered this time, the three groups are now united under one government. Under my friend Roden. I know they have a large population. Bronny said. Extremely large. Ellie added. So how large is your armada? Hilm asked. Up to 3,000 ships, maybe, I never counted. Andrew answered. Ono explained, we do not determine victory in war by the number of ships. 10 ships can take on the 500 coming in and the 370 combined and still win without losing a single ship. In fact, 2 of our commanders took on 4,200 ships with 20 ships and drove the invaders back after they lost more than 2,000 ships with minimal casualties on the side of the enemy. Ellie added. So you are always this confident? Pulm asked. We are never confident. We prepare a lot. We do our assignment. We study the enemy. We do not engage unless we are confident of our preparations. Like the information you provided tell us this is going to be a very short engagement. Andrew explained. So how would your 80 ships fight the 500 ships? Hilm asked, trying to understand their strategy. Before they even see the 80 ships, they have already lost the engagement. We have ships as far as 100 MLY from here with 4 of the best commanders in the galaxies, my ship and 80 others are hidden in gas planets. We have more than 200,000 drones already deployed and waiting for the signal to engage, if ever. When we start engaging the enemy, the 370 ships will also be engaged simultaneously. The engagement will end in less than 2 hours from the time it starts. Andrew said. So there is no head-to-head battle between ships? Pulm asked. We almost never have a chance to fight head-to-head. Because our ships are very fast, we run around them and fire. We have different attack positions and patterns, mostly fast-moving. But we do this if and only if we have to. Normally, we avoid destroying their ships and killing them, as a rule. Keelmill explained. As Olive said earlier, their laser will not penetrate our shields, but 3 volleys of plasma cannons will destroy a ship. Maybe some engagement may occur, but our ships will be very careful not to destroy them. Ono said. We are tempted to show you, but we do not want to kill more than we need to win the war. Andrew said. I really have to see this engagement without killing strategy. Bronny said. It will start in 6 hours. We will contact them and tell them to surrender their ships and get onto 1 or 2 ships and go home, or we remove them from their ships, disable the ships and study them. Don't worry about these things, we do this all the time. Our people are all very well trained and experienced in these sorts of things. Ellie said. The Macs in the Armada would like to meet the Mac Council you have under your protection with your permission. Gadden said. Yes please, I apologize for this indiscretion. Bronny said. No indiscretion at all, you were protecting them from first contact problems. Andrew said. Olive appeared, Ambassador Gilkin and several members of his council will be here tomorrow with the rest of our ships. Andrew. Roden will be here about that time. Gantley and Tonin will be here tonight. Tony will be here tomorrow morning and several hundred leaders from across the galaxies would be here to meet you. Thousands of Mac leaders will be here to meet all of you. As you can see, your arrival caused a lot of excitement across the galaxies. Some of these people will come from 13 BLY away like Manpat and Binatan, King Borinatu and his wife, the Bourbon Third Queen, and so many others. Gadden said. They must have left weeks ago to travel that distance. Hilm said. The furthest ones left yesterday and will be here tomorrow morning. Ono said. That's extremely fast to travel that distance in 2 days. Bronny said. Ellie answered, we will explain to you how we do it at a later time. I would suggest you move your ships to the gas planet where we are. You will be within their firing range in 10 hours. Andrew said. Yes, we will do that. Pulm said. Tonin and Gantley appeared as holograms. Hi Andrew, Ellie, Gadden, Keelmill. Tonin exclaimed with open arms. Hi guys. Gadden said and proceeded to introduce Tonin and Gantley to Bronny's group. Gantley exclaimed, the Intqee people are honored by your presence. Our leader Roden will be here to pay his respects and seal the continuation of our long history of friendship. Thank you Gantley. Bronny said. Andrew, we have tagged all the crew and put bombs in the engines. We will start on your signal. Tonin said. Okay Tonin, how did you get near the enemy without being spotted? Ellie asked. We have dozens of Crinsons and thousands of Trunties on board. And don't worry Andrew, we made sure they are a useful part of the Armada. Gantley added. You seem to know each other pretty well. Saria commented. Too well. It drives us crazy sometimes. Tonin said and the group laughed. So your vastly expanded intellect has also put humor in your life Tonin, like Ellie here. Andrew said. You can see the effect huh? I don't feel any smarter or funnier, but sometimes I say or do things and people just laugh. Gantley added, pretty soon we would all be dressing as clowns to clown around. Andrew laughed the loudest. So you joke around and are very light like this on the eve of an engagement? Hilm asked. It used to be that Andrew would be the most popular joker among us, now I don't think so. Gatton said, and Andrew laughed again. We also put drama in our regularly boring lives by overdoing or acting out things. Andrew explained. But make no mistake, as a military armada, we kill people, although sometimes we regret doing so. The ship logs will be available to you when you want to go over them. Ellie said. You seem to be very open to us. Pulm said. Gatton exclaimed, of course, you are our beloved Maqeebees. We don't want to bore you with our stories and how we do things. Andrew said. It really is just a big surprise for us. Bronny said. So what happened to you? Why are you here and how can we help? Ellie asked. 3 very hard questions. Where do we start? Bronny said and looked at Blanton. Blanton started, when the last of the Maqeebees left the old galaxies around 500,000 years ago, we settled in 4 galaxies. These galaxies were next to the galaxies of the first 3 waves of Maqeebee colonies that started more than 1,000,000 years ago. They formed the first, second and third colonies. The last group that left formed the 4th colony. The colonies developed very quickly from a few hundred planets to thousands. The civilization has grown very fast because of the peace and inward-centered development. The Maqees, or Max as you call us, developed as fast as the Maqeebees, and the collective grew as well. Hilm added, we have encountered several alien groups, not as large as our civilization and not as advanced. Some were less than 1/10 of our size while some very small. We took care of them for thousands of years, teaching them and helping them develop their civilization. The peace has endured for all those years until recently. My father, who was council governor for a large segment, about a quarter, of the 4th colony galaxies, found out something very troubling. One time he investigated that the 3 other segments have been corrupted by a certain rock that emits a theta wave that affects the Maqeebees near it. It does not affect Maqees because they are a different species. Over the course of more than 200,000 years, the Maqeebees living near where these rocks existed have changed and have become less kind and more controlling, having less empathy and have become mean. My father investigated it and his conclusion was that the change had become almost permanent. For those exposed for a long time, only a small rock can affect a lot in its vicinity. It will take, he conjectured, at least 100 years for the effect of the rock to wear off. Bronny explained. He engaged the Mac Council to help, and they did, and their joint work has predicted the rise of a class of leaders coming out of the industrial sector, our rich commercial enterprises, and they even predicted the possible leader of this group. All of their predictions turned out to be correct. Blanton added. Bronny continued, my father reported this to the Maqeebees High Council early on and nobody believed him. In fact, 200 years ago, when the war started, the High Council was still in denial. My father, his leaders and several hundred Maqee leaders were assassinated in an ambush immediately before the war. Now the High Council is at a loss. They do not have the ships to fight and our ships are down to a few thousands. Hilm added, our enemy on the other hand have been quietly producing warships for hundreds of years before they started the war. I believe they have over 30,000 ships, maybe more. Recently they were able to get a certain species called Tippets in a galaxy 80 MLY away under their control. First they used their financial capabilities to bribe the leaders, now they connected them to a small device that takes over their decision faculties. They tricked the leaders by making them wear these uniforms, and once the king was in their control, the king ordered his soldiers to wear this new uniform which has this small device. After that, they were able to implant the device into the body of the already willing subjects so they can follow and control them even if they are not wearing the uniforms. The army of this king number at least 100 million and these became their foot soldiers. Do you have a sample of this device and the rock? Can you give us information on this theta wave? Ellie asked. We have, our scientists will provide you with all the information you need. Bronny said. Continuing, now, the Cardist Imperial Army as they call themselves, have controlled 70% of all the planets in the 4th colonies. Once they are done with our colonies, they will move on to the 3rd. We expect them to take over all the 4th colony in 20 years. Hilm said. When we left, engagements happen almost every day. The Imperial armies are all for the engagements. They lose 3 ships to one of ours. But they have the numbers. Pulm added. The truth is I ordered our ships to the old galaxies to leave our Maqee leadership and people and then go back. We were hoping our old Intqee friends would help us with a few hundred ships. Bronny said. Andrew looked at Gantley. As first field marshal of the Intqee fleet, all my ships and armies will be at your service. Gantley said. It will be a long war with a very rich enemy. Brawny said. Tonen countered, I don't think it will take too long. Maybe 3 months and a half, including less than 2 months of travel time. Hilm stood up and, that's impossible, you are only giving them a month or so of engagement period. Fine, 6 months then. Andrew said, looking at Tonen. Ellie countered, sir, I think 5 months tops including clean-up. Maybe with 3,000 ships. I think you grossly underestimate the enemy. Brawny said. Andrew looked at Tonen, who then looked at Brawny. We will finish with the 870 ships in less than 2 hours from when Andrew signals us to start. Maybe then you will see how we do things. Tonen said. And you plan to get their ships intact and avoid killing them? Hilm asked. Yes and yes. They all have the right to live in the universe. They are just misguided. We intend to bring them back to the light, so to speak. Let them live free. Andrew answered. Don't concern yourself too much about this. We do this all the time. Everybody in the Armada understands this and know how to carry this out. Ellie said. I just cannot imagine it. Brawny said. Eric appeared as a hologram. Hi Tonen, Gantley, good to see you around here. Tonen said, good to see you too. Tonen then proceeded to introduce Brawny and his group. So what's up, Eric? Andrew asked. Boss, I sent forward probes several days ago, and at about 1.8 BLY away there are 10,000 ships moving to our direction. They will be here in 10 days. I suggest we do not engage and move on. Let Billy and Tony or maybe Roden deal with them. I agree, Olive, tell Billy to get his ass over here and deal with the 10,000 ships. Give Roden the heads up on this so he can participate if he likes. Andrew said, and Eric disappeared. Billy is one of our top commanders assigned to the Mac Galaxies. I think he has 200 ships under him. Gadden told Brawny. So you will let 200 ships engage 10,000? Hilm asked. What will happen is that we would stay here for about 5 days to prepare the Armada for the long trip while sending out supply lines ahead of us. Then we move on to your galaxies. Billy would have to deal with them. Hopefully he will not kill a lot of them. Tony would surely make use of the 10,000 enemy ships to create a line from our galaxies to yours. Ellie explained. You expect the 200 ships to ensure that all 10,000 ships are intact for you to use. We are at a loss understanding how you fight a war. Brawny said. Olive appeared. Billy said he will not be here on time. Fine, tell Eric that as soon as we deal with the 870 ships, he and Roger and Linda and Lasheen would have to go. I can go with them. They may need some Crinsons. I have 30. Tonen said. How come you have 30? Ellie asked. I asked. Gantley has 32. Okay, Olive, tell Eric Tonen will go with them. Yes, Andrew. May I invite you to my ship? Later you can monitor the engagement from there. Andrew said.